So explain to us what libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things. Hey guys, how are you? Are you still hearing my self-talk?
I do, yes.
Oh, we're still talking. I've got an echo here somehow. I'm gonna pop out and pop back in.
Okay.
I'm back. I'm glad you guys are back. I don't have an echo anymore, so I'm so happy. Welcome, everybody. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. We are here. It's Libertarian Drinking Coffee Live, 3 p.m. I ran out of coffee, so I drank it so fast. I'm already out of it, but I'm happy that we're here together. There we go. Erika's still here. I love it so much. Guys, please like, comment, share. It matters. It's very important that people know we're doing this, because remember something, there are hundreds of libertarians running across this country trying to make impact in their local communities, in their states, in their cities, in their counties, and we have to support them too. So please like, comment, and share. It does matter. I am very lucky today. Today I have here with me the amazing, the awesome Erika Kolenich. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you, Larry?
I'm doing awesome. I'm so glad you were able to visit us virtually from West Virginia. I appreciate that. You're running for governor.
Yes.
So I have to ask the crazy question. Why governor of all the ways? I mean, you've been in your state for a while. You've been serving it through, serving the community legally for many years. Why governor, and why now? Why this year?
Well, I think what happened for me is that I spent a lot of time in our state capitol as an attorney, watching, legislation of different laws, specifically in regards to torts, because that's what I do for a living as a trial lawyer. And I just started to see the inside of that process and what really happened. I started to see people get kicked out of caucuses in the legislature if they didn't vote the way their party wanted. I started to see how really the folks that we elected to represent us were no longer representing us. They were really just there to serve their party.
Yep.
And that really made me angry. It really frustrated me, and it really made me sad that the people of West Virginia were being taken advantage of. So I decided that I had to do something. I didn't feel like I could stand along the sidelines anymore. And governor seemed to make sense because it is the only race in West Virginia that can maintain ballot access and party status for the West Virginians. So I thought that it was important to run so that people in West Virginia who felt like they didn't have a voice not only could vote for me and vote for somebody that they felt carried their voice, but also that would allow them in the future to be able to run as a third party, as a libertarian if they wanted. So that's why I'm running as governor.
I love that. I got a couple comments off the bat asking, is West Virginia a purple state? I think people think of it as that. Is that true? And if so, is it easier or harder for libertarians to win?
The Libertarian, I wouldn't call it a purple state. I will say this, though. The Libertarian Party is the only party growing in the state of West Virginia.
Wow.
Which is fantastic. We're growing at an exponential rate. Since 2016, we've nearly doubled our numbers.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. So that's pretty fantastic. I would not call it easy to win for libertarians here, though. West Virginia has a lot of older citizens that are used to, doing things the way they've always been done,
Right.
and rightfully so. They've just never had an opportunity to do differently. So there's a lot of party line voting that happens here and straight ticket voting in West Virginia. So I wouldn't call it an easy place to win, but I would call it a place that is receptive to the messages of liberty and freedom, certainly.
So let's go down that road of messages of liberty and freedom. Obviously, you could, you probably have dozens of issues that, you want to fix across your state. Can you give me just like 1, 2, or 3 of the top issues that kind of float to the top for you?
Sure. The first one for me is criminal justice reform here in the state. We have, like many states that are in a similar economic position to West Virginia, we have an extreme addiction problem here. We have an opioid problem. And obviously what we know is that prohibition isn't working. And so for me, taking not only those people who are getting stuck in the system and labeled as drug offenders and allowing them to do something different with their lives than just being thrown in jail and having their children taken from them.
Yep.
There's also a very, very strong impact that comes from budgeting. We spend a lot of money here in West Virginia. On the county level here in West Virginia, one of the top expenditures on almost every county in West Virginia is county jail fees. There are some counties, it's incredible. There are some counties that have actually looked at filing bankruptcy because their county jail fees are so high and they can't pay them. So there's just such a benefit.
Explain what a county jail fee is.
Sure. So here in West Virginia, when folks get arrested for whatever it might be, possession of marijuana, anything else, they go to a regional jail. And there are several regional jails that are owned by the state that are set up throughout the state of West Virginia. And if you as a county have charged so many people with crimes or alleged crimes, and you use the state's facility to house them, then your county's budget is going to have to reimburse the state. So
the state is bankrupting the counties because of jails.
Yes.
Wow.
and very often it's state law enforcement that is charging those folks. So it's a very interesting problem.
Wow. Okay. And, that is interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, changing the way that we have a conversation about addiction here in West Virginia, allowing people who want to recover, and allowing people that don't want to recover to make the choices that they want for themselves, that they think are best for themselves, and for us to not get involved is going to take West Virginia really, really far. We spend way too much of our tax money and our time trying to fight the drug issues here in West Virginia. It's just not working.
It's funny that you say that, right? Because, you look at an issue where you're talking about making this happen, making this work so that we not only save lives, but also save money and save resources. It saves more. It's no matter what level you're looking at it from, right? If you're looking at it from, I love the people and care about the people, or I don't care about the people or care about the cash, it doesn't matter. Either way, it's helpful.
It's absolutely helpful. And, a lot of the people in West Virginia, when you talk to them, they understand that concept. The only resistance that they have is, well, what about the person down the street that steals my kid's bike out of the shed because he needs money for drugs? Right. To which my response is, if drugs weren't illegal, they wouldn't be so expensive. And he wouldn't be stealing a bike because he could still go to work because he's not doing anything differently than the guy that has, 6 or 7 beers after work every night and still goes to work and functions. Right. So, it's that. And the other side of it is, again, per capita here in West Virginia. I mean, we're a small state, but per capita, we have one of the highest amounts of children who are in the foster care system. And that's
connected.
Yes. The most prevalent reason that kids are getting, taken away from their families here and families are getting charged with abuse and neglect is because of drug use. So we can leave those kids in their homes. We can let those people who want to use have jobs, and we can stop spending our resources fighting a losing battle and reallocate those to places we really need it. So,
okay. I have a question from Tim. He says, would you say that West Virginia is suffering from an economic depression?
I don't know if I would use the word depression, because I think depression has a very specific academic meaning. But certainly our economy here in West Virginia isn't good, which he must have been reading me my mind, because he led me to my second point when you're asking me about the things that West Virginia has a problem with.
He's smart. He figured it out. He was there.
Absolutely. So in West Virginia, our economy has been a one-trick pony. And that trick is the oil, gas. And they give those companies anything they want to come into West Virginia with the hopes that there are going to be these jobs. And, that was working a long time ago. It's not working now. And we need something new. And we don't hear anything new from either side here in West Virginia. You don't really hear anything new from the Democrats. You don't really hear anything new from the Republicans. They just want to keep repeating the same thing that has gotten West Virginia to where it is. They just make these empty promises. So my plan as governor is to create economic stability through using assets that West Virginia already has. So you go to any small town in West Virginia and there is an entrepreneurial spirit like you won't see anywhere else. We're a very artistic state. There's tons of artists here. And we just need to make it easier for those people who want to operate businesses in West Virginia to do that. And we won't have an economic problem.
I know, I get it. You're not the first person to tell me that. I've heard that type of story from West Virginia, from different people, about how so many of the people who are the elites in West Virginia take the resources and put them someplace else, and they don't come back to the average West Virginian. I've heard that more than once.
That's 100% correct. And we saw that in West Virginia with the construction of something called the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which was a natural gas pipeline that was operated, I believe, by Dominion. They were going to take gas in West Virginia, natural gas, and send it other places. And I mean, everybody in West Virginia was just preparing for the boom that was going to happen with the installation of this Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And then around a month ago, we find out Dominion's abandoned that project. There are entire businesses that were set up in West Virginia under this thought that we were going to have these, this economic boom from the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, and that never happened. And that's the same story with West Virginia. Our current governor, one of the things that he did very early on is talk to people about how he was gonna bring coal jobs back, which is very difficult to do because he can't change the international market for coal.
Right. Absolutely.
So we just need new ideas, and we don't have that. And for a state like West Virginia that needs economic development and needs businesses, we are a very, very difficult state to do business in. A few years ago, when we had a different governor, guy by the name of Joe Manchin, if you've heard of him.
Yep.
He for a little bit changed the motto of our state on our highway signs when you drive in to "open for business," which was most. Yeah, it was really ridiculous thing because we're very far from being open.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounded good at least.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I mean, it's as silly as quick personal story. My mom owns a convenience store. She's a small business owner. She is told by the state who she has to buy her beer from, which distributors she has to buy her beer from. The distributor they want her to buy from is an hour away, and they run out of products before they ever get to her. So my mother can't serve her customers. If she can't serve her customers, she can't pay her employees, all because the state wants to tell her for no reason who to buy beer from. It makes no sense.
Yes, I'm with you. New York State's similar. I get it. So I want to go back, if I could, to your criminal justice for a second. I have a couple of questions on that I want to bring up, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Ben says, a super addictive drug like fentanyl should be what? Legal without prescription? LOL. He's laughing with the idea of making all drugs legal. Is that what you're saying? Are you saying cannabis? Are you saying legality? Are you saying, where do you stand on this issue? When I was in New York, I spoke only about, opening up cannabis was my first step for everything. Where are you in West Virginia?
I'm right there with you. So
Okay.
in West Virginia, we have medical cannabis already, except that it's not off the ground because they can't stop fighting about how to get it off the ground.
Yep.
So I think the first step is simply decriminalizing cannabis.
Got it.
And then, the second step, once we decriminalize cannabis, because I get that people are scared. They don't know if it can work, especially when they've lived all their lives in a place that's never been done. Then we can move to other things. But when I'm talking about the money that we can save from criminal justice reform, I'm not suggesting that we legalize fentanyl. I'm just suggesting that if someone gets pulled over for speeding and they're not committing, any other crime that's hurting someone, and they're not doing something bad, and they happen to have fentanyl in their car, that we don't spend a ton of taxpayer money sending that person to jail and taking away their children because they've been charged with drug possession.
Got it. Yeah, Kevin brings up that the child abuse profit is $1 billion industry. It absolutely is. New York State's doing it. West Virginia's doing it. They're all doing it. Let's put the kids in the system and make money. It's for profit.
Yeah, it is. And we have a lack of foster care families here in West Virginia. So, I mean, the children here in West Virginia are a real problem. They're our future generation. They're our hope. If we're going to come out of, some of the problems that we've had the past several decades, we have to make sure that those kids are taken care of. We can't put them into facilities and let them, get lost there.
Okay. What is off topic, but what's your stance on the Second Amendment?
My stance on the Second Amendment is it's written with no limitations and no infringements. So I don't think that any infringements or limitations by the government is proper.
There we go. All right. So you gave me criminal justice. You gave me economic stability. Do you have another one?
I have another one. It's not that exciting. It's exciting to me, but not that exciting.
Okay.
I have a detailed plan to eliminate the personal income tax on individuals here in West Virginia.
What do you mean that's not exciting? That's super exciting. No income tax? I love it.
No income tax. It's a phased program that starts with a 10% decrease the first year, which saves $215 billion. And the reason that it's in phases, a lot of people that like government programs and like the idea of getting these things don't understand how we can cut taxes. And my response is that most of the time you're not getting what you paid for. Right. I mean, the government created this program that was going to do great things, but they never go back and say, hey, let's take a look at that program we created 15 years ago and make sure it's doing its job and make sure you're getting what you're sold. They never do that. So one of my plans that first year when I decreased the income tax by 10% is to do performance-based audits, which isn't done often.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I think what we have to do is all government programs and agencies have somewhere, you might have to dig for it, a stated intent and a stated goal of their program. So we simply take the individuals who are in charge of those programs and have them present to me, I suppose, I'm the governor, to me, the stated intent and data that shows that they are meeting those goals that they're doing the things that they were intended to do.
Got it.
If they can't demonstrate that they're doing what they were set up to do, then we don't need them. And the agencies and programs that maybe can demonstrate that they're getting things done, we've all heard stories about people in different government agencies or that get different government grants saying, well, we actually didn't need this last $500,000 that they gave us, but we need to spend it because next year we don't want them to take it away from us. Absolutely.
Yes. Encourages just fraud and abuse. And yes, absolutely. Right. We had this little quick story in Marine Corps. We had this, and anyone who's a veteran knows this. They would give us, for training, they'd give us ammunition allotments, cash allotments, those things. And we would literally just at the end of the year supposed to fire off rounds for nothing because we wanted to make sure we got them. Totally wasting taxpayer money. We'd fire the rounds off and there'd be no reason to train, but we would just, all right, let's get them in and just light them all up. And we just fire rounds for nothing. And there's times when you would see guys when I used to work in the Army, we break the equipment on purpose so we can get new stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the system absolutely encourages this. You're totally correct.
It does. And so there are just several programs like that where you can decrease the budgets and you would still get the intended result.
Absolutely.
The program and the agency would still function the way it was intended to. And so many things in West Virginia are so top heavy in terms of administration.
Sure.
So you have a lot of people telling, other people what to do involved in the program, but not a lot of doers.
And checking the boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So if we eliminate some of those things, we could see so much more money in the pockets of taxpayers. I mean, I think I mentioned just that 10% decrease is $215 million. To West Virginia families, that's a lot of money.
No, I'm with you. I have the same issue in New York. I get it. So let's go to the biggest thing that's kind of affecting us, has been affecting us for this almost the entire year. Do you have a view in West Virginia about the COVID response?
I do. Our governor has made himself infamous, at least in our state, by his daily COVID briefings. He does them every day, even now, which is interesting. And, the first thing in regards to the COVID response is one of the reasons that we are in the position we are now, with people being on different pages, people who want to wear masks, people who don't want to wear masks, people who think it's a serious problem, people who believe it's a hoax. It's because they don't believe that they can trust the information coming from the government.
Yes.
If they trusted the information, there would be no question. There would be question about if we needed a mask. So the first thing that I think you have to do is set up trust and set up transparency in your position. And we've never had that with our governor. And not only that, but his messaging was very inconsistent. Literally, on one night, he said, "I'm not going to tell you not to go out to eat. If you want to go to Bob Evans, go to Bob Evans." The next day, he closed restaurants, indicated he was going to close restaurants. So it was,
wow.
It was a very, very inconsistent message.
Okay.
And, when you're inconsistent like that, people don't feel like they can trust you.
That scares them even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll see numbers today that say there are this many active cases. And then tomorrow, the number of recovered cases and the number of new cases don't add up to the prior day's active. So there was something wrong. And people just don't feel that they can trust the information. So the whole reason we're here is lack of trust. And I understand that that's something that's not going to change overnight. But we have to start somewhere, and we have to start electing people that we can trust.
I love it.
The second thing is, what we did here in West Virginia was similar to a lot of states, which is we decided which businesses were essential and which businesses were not essential, which was a terrible idea.
Yep.
It was a terrible idea. I'm
not essential.
I think you are.
Thank you. But my overlord thinks I'm not essential, so I can't.
Yeah, and it just didn't make any sense. In my little hometown, I could go to Walmart and I could be around a bunch of people who at that time weren't wearing masks because they were told, don't wear masks, masks don't help. And I could be, hip to hip with somebody in the milk aisle right next to them. But I couldn't go to my small coffee shop on Main Street where there's normally only one person, if that, and buy a cup of coffee.
Yep.
And again, that just sends an inconsistent message. I mean, what we should be doing in leadership is we should be telling people, listen, this is the risk. This is what's out there. This is what might happen if you don't, follow these guidelines that we've decided might help, and let them make the decisions for themselves. Right. Don't tell people who have to, who have to close and who can stay open. People inherently have self-preservation. And most people, not all, but most people are inherently good. Most business owners aren't going to force their folks to come to work if it's unsafe. I was an essential business and I closed. My folks worked from home. I'm a business owner. So this whole idea of we're going to say who can be open, how they can be open, it just didn't work. And it made people that much more distrustful. And
angry too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And angry and unhappy. And yeah. So let's go to the angry level then. Protests. That's the second thing, right? And Tim's on, and I steal Tim's line all the time. Tim said that locking everybody in from COVID, that was kind of the tinder, right? And then George Floyd's murder, that was a spark. Everybody was literally sitting at home watching Netflix for 3 months, nothing to do, going stir crazy. And then here comes George Floyd and boom, out as everybody goes. We have a mission now, let's go. And it's very easy to protest for 6-7 days in a row when you don't have a job, right? When you don't have to be at work at 9 o'clock in the morning, you can stay out all night protesting. Not a big deal. So what's your view on the protests? Just the whole thing behind it.
Sure. Well, I suppose the first thing is we need to distinguish, right? Because people get up in arms about this, that there's a difference between protesting and there's a difference between looting and violence and burning down people's private hard-owned, property. There's a big difference. When it comes to protesting, I mean, that's what this country was built upon. This country was built upon people's ability to freely speak, to gather, and to say, we're not going to stand for what the government's doing right now. The government is there by the people to serve the people at the consent of the people, and we no longer consent to what's happening. That is a foundation of the United States of America. And I think that any group that wants to protest for any reason at any time should be able to do that. Okay. Whether or not I agree with the reason that they're protesting would be 100% irrelevant. I think every person in the United States should be able to protest at any point in time. Okay. I certainly think that protesting because you believe that police violence has gotten out of control and people aren't listening to you is a reasonable thing. I don't think that destroying property of those who are not involved in your protest, who did not harm you, that's not a reasonable thing. That's nothing more than a crime.
Okay. Got it. All right. So I got to ask, in your race, 2-person race, 3-person race, 4-person race?
4.
4. Okay.
4.
Okay. So Democrat, Republican, you and?
Mountain Party, which
Mountain Party.
Like the Green Party in West Virginia.
The dreaded Mountain Party. Yes. I don't know them, but okay. So they're the equivalent of Green Party in West Virginia.
Yes.
Got it. So 4-way race. Wow. That's a big race. It's a tough nut to crack.
It is.
Tough nut to crack. Well, look, guys, if you're watching and you want to help her crack that tough nut, head down to that .com you see at the bottom there. Right. If you can read it, it says right there. For more information on Erika, go to Kolenich. Is it Kolenich or Kolenich?
Kolenich.
Kolenich. I screwed it up all completely. Kolenich.
That's okay.
Sorry,
I'll respond to anything.
There we go. Go to Kolenich4wv.com. Help her out in any way you can. If you live in West Virginia, you know what? She needs people to wave signs. She needs people to hang door hangers. She needs people to show up at events. Show up if you can, right? Absolutely do that. If you can help out via social media, help out via social media. If you've got some cash, give her some cash. Throw some money her way. She could use the cash. She could use the money. She could use the help. She could use the social media help. Like, comment, and share all her stuff. That's helpful. We can help her out. Please do whatever you can in West Virginia, particularly if you're in West Virginia. Come on, guys. This is someone who's going to help you for ballot access. Let's make a push to the best of our ability. Now, with that push, do you have a cool slogan like a build that wall or Medicaid for all? Do you have one of those?
Well, the answer is I thought my slogan was one thing, and I have found out from other people it's something else.
Oh, that may be better.
Yeah. So Joe Jorgensen was in West Virginia a couple of weeks ago, and I had the opportunity to speak while she was in town. And I wrote a speech that I felt just said what I was about. And I felt myself saying, now is the time, a lot. And so I am told that my slogan is, now is the time.
I love that. Let's hashtag that bad boy. Now is the time. I love it. That's amazing. Good. Very good. So with that in mind, how in the world are we going to make impact here? This is a tough year for us, meaning it's tough because, you know, COVID means we can't gather like many times Libertarians will gather and do big events, right? We don't get to do that. Travel's tougher. People aren't working, less chance of getting extra cash, all types of fear in general, right? Just big fear and worry. And now, of course, with Biden and Trump, everything's about my team has to win. I can't vote for someone who's not on my team. So fear problem. Erika, how do we get past that? Do you have an idea?
I do.
Okay.
I know exactly what I want to accomplish, and I feel really good because I feel like I'm getting there. And what I want to accomplish, if I'm not sitting in the governor's seat this time next year, is merely to increase the recognition of the Libertarian presence in West Virginia, let people know that there is another option, expose people to libertarianism and real life, everyday solutions, and inspire them to know that there can be change. And it's going to take, you know, voting for somebody that you believe in, as opposed to just doing exactly what you said, voting for the guy they gave you because you really don't want the other guy to win.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you know, increasing thought, whether or not it's libertarian or mountain party or independent or anything else that
No, libertarian.
well, libertarian, that you don't have to subscribe to one or the other just because that's what people tell you to do, and
Right.
because that's what you've always been told to do. So my personal measure of success is going to be to continue to increase. We've had ballot access here since the 2012 race, to
Right.
just continue to increase that percentage. If I can do that, then I'm going to consider that a win.
Do you have a number in your head which is like, you know, if I double it or raise it by 10% or do you have a number which you're like, you know what, I think this is the number I like?
I love 9% in West Virginia in a statewide race. I don't know realistically with the limitations that, you know, COVID has put in place. Normally in West Virginia, the way we run is we go out there to fairs and festivals and
Yes.
we talk to people and we have booths, and we can't do any of that.
Right.
So, you know, we can really only reach people through social media and advertising, and we don't always have enough money to do television advertising, which if you'd like to help me with that, you could shoot me a donation. So
Absolutely. Head on down there, right?
Exactly.
Right there. You see that right there? Head over there.
Yeah, a lot of what we're doing is social media, and, you know,
Sure.
there's certainly a segment of the population that doesn't reach. So in light of that, I'm shooting for 9, but if I get anywhere above the last race, which was slightly over 2, I'm going to call that a win based upon the dynamics of this particular year.
What do you need for ballot access? What's the number?
We just need 1%.
Oh, easy day. Okay, you can do that.
Yes, I hope so.
I love that. I love that. Yes. We in New York State, we need 2%. Or 100,000 or 130,000 votes, whichever is higher.
Oh, well, that's convenient.
Yes. So for us, it means we'll need about 160,000 votes this year. A lot. We need a whole bunch, but we got to keep going. I appreciate that. Well, you've covered a bunch. I appreciate all you've covered. Is there anything specific you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
The last thing that I want to say is just, you know, West Virginia is a textbook picture about how Republicans and Democrats are really the same thing. Our current governor was elected as a Democrat. About 6 months into his term, he flipped to Republican. He is now running for re-election as a Republican, and he's the same person with the same policies that got elected 4 years ago. So if you needed an example as to why it might be time to vote for a Libertarian and vote with your conscience, West Virginia in 2020 is it.
That's the picture. I appreciate it. Erika, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate all the time you gave me. Guys, thank you so much for actually being here and watching and being so, back and forth. Oh my God, thank you for all the questions and comments. I really appreciate it. We're rocking and rolling, and now's the time. Now's the time. All right, guys, I will see you all very soon.